Chaos pervaded all through India in the matter of religion and philosophy. Sect after sect, such as Charvakas, Lokayathikas, Kapalikas, Shaktas, Sankhyas, Buddhas and Madhyamikas sprang up. The number of religions rose as high as 72. There was fight amongst sects. There was no peace anywhere. Chaos and confusion reigned supreme. There was superstition and bigotry. Darkness prevailed over the once happy land of rishis, sages and yogins. The once glorious land of the Aryans was in a miserable state. Such was the state of the country at the time which just preceded the Avatara incarnation of Shankaracharya. The existence of Vedic Dharma in India today is due to Shankara. The forces opposed to Vedic religion were more numerous and powerful at the time of Shankara than they are today. Still, single-handed, within a very short time, Shankara overpowered them all and restored the Vedic Dharma and Advaita Vedanta to its pristine purity in the land. The weapon he used was pure knowledge and spirituality. The previous avatars, like Rama and Krishna, used physical forces because the obstacles to Dharma in those days arose from the physical obstructions and molestations of the asuras, demons. The menace to Dharma in the Kali age, age of destruction, arose from obstacles that were more internal than external, more mental than physical. The seeds of adharma, unrighteousness, were then working in the minds of almost everyone. Hence, the evil had to be combated purely by the weapon of knowledge and self-purification. It was in order to forge this weapon and wield it with efficacy that Shankara took birth in the Brahmin-Varna caste and entered the sanyasa renunciate order early in life. The previous avatars like Rama and Krishna took birth in the Kshatriya Varna warrior caste because in their days they had to wield military weapons in the restoration of Dharma. All are no doubt aware of the very important position assigned to Shankaracharya in the history of Indian philosophy. It can be affirmed, without any fear of contradiction, that Bharatavarsha would have ceased to be Bharatavarsha several centuries ago and would never have survived the murderous sword, the devastating fire, and the religious intolerance of the successive invaders if Shankara had not lived the life he lived and taught the lessons he taught. And those lessons are still pulsating in every cell and in every protoplasm of the true aspirant and the true Hindu birth. Shankara was born in a very poor family in the year 788 AD. In a village named Kalady, 6 miles to the east of Alway, Kerala, Kalady is a railway station on the Kochi-Shorano rail link. Shankara was a Nambudiri Brahmin. Rajasekhara, a zamindar, a rich landlord, built a Siva temple in Kalady and formed an agrahara for Brahmins who were in the service of the temple. Vidyatiraja was doing puja, worship, in the temple. He had only a son named Shivaguru. Shivaguru studied the Shastras and married at the proper age. He had no child. He and his wife Aryamba prayed to Lord Shiva to bless them with a son. A son was born to them in the Vasanta Ritu, or the spring season at noon, in the auspicious Abhijit Muhurta and under the constellation Ardra. This son was Shankara. Shivaguru died when Shankara was 7 years old. Shankara had none to look after his education. His mother was an extraordinary woman. She took special care to educate her son in all the Shastras. Shankara's Upanayana or thread ceremony was performed in his 7th year after the death of his father. Shankara exhibited extraordinary intelligence in his boyhood. When he was only 16, he became a master of all the philosophies and theologies. He began to write commentaries on the Gita, the Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutras when he was only 16 years old. What a great marvel! Shankara's mother was consulting astrologers about horoscopes of suitable girls for her son's marriage, but Shankara had a firm resolve to renounce the world and become a sannyasin. Shankara's mother was very much grieved that there would be no one to perform her funeral rites after her death. Shankara gave full assurance to his mother that he would always be ready to serve her at the deathbed and perform the usual funeral rites. Even then, his mother was not satisfied. One day, Shankara and his mother went to take bath in the river. Sankara plunged into the water and felt that a crocodile was dragging him by the foot. He shouted out to his mother at the top of his voice, "Oh dear, mother, a crocodile is dragging me down. I am lost. Let me die peacefully as a sannyasin. Let me have the satisfaction of dying as a sannyasin. Give me your permission now. Let me take apath sannyasa." The mother immediately allowed him to take sannyasa. Sankara took apath sannyasa, the adoption of sannyasa when death is near, at once. The crocodile let him go unharmed. Sankara came out of the water as a nominal sannyasin. He again repeated his promise to his mother. He left her under the care of his relatives and gave away his little property to them. He then proceeded to find out a guru with a view to get himself formally initiated into the sacred order of sannyasa. In search of a guru, Sankara met Swami Govindapada Acharya in a hermitage in Badrikashram, Badrinath in the Himalayas, and he prostrated at the teacher's feet. Govinda asked Sankara who he was. Sankara replied, "O revered guru, I am neither fire nor air, nor earth nor water, none of these but the immortal Atma, self, that is hidden in all names and forms." He also said in the end, "I am the son of Shivaguru, a Brahmin of Kerala. My father died in my childhood. I was brought up by my mother. I have studied the Vedas and the Shastras under a teacher. I took apath sannyasa when a crocodile caught my foot while I was taking bath in the river. Kindly initiate me formally into the holy order of sannyasa." Swami Govinda was very much pleased with the truthful narration given by Sankara. Having initiated him and invested him with the robe of a sannyasin, Swami Govinda taught him the philosophy of Advaita, which he himself had learnt from his guru Govindapada Acharya. Sankara learnt all the philosophical tenets from his guru Govindapada. Govinda asked Sankara to go to Kashi. Sankara proceeded to Kashi, where he wrote all his famous commentaries on the Brahma Sutras, the Upanishads and the Gita, and successfully met all the criticisms leveled against them. He then began to propagate his philosophy. Sankara had the greatest esteem for his guru Govindapada and his Parama Guru, or the teacher's teacher, Gaudapada. Sankara's Digvijaya. Sankara's philosophical conquests are unique in the world. He had his triumphant tour all over India. He met the leaders of different schools of thought. He convinced them by arguments and established the supremacy and truth of the religion that he expounded in his commentaries. He went to all the celebrated seats of learning. He challenged the learned men to discussion, argued with them, and converted them to his opinions and views. He defeated Bhatta Bhaskara and condemned his Bhashya commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. He then met Dandi and Mayura and taught them his philosophy. He then defeated in argument Harsha, author of Handana Kandakadya, Abhinavagupta, Murari Misra, Udayanacharya, Dharmagupta, Kumarila, and Prabhakara. Shankara then proceeded to Mahishmati. Mandana Mishra was the chief pundit of the court of Mahishmati. Mandana was brought up in the Karma Mimamsa faith, and so he had intense hatred for the sannyasins. He was performing a Shraddha ceremony when Shankara somehow dropped down there. Immediately, Mandana Mishra became very furious. An ugly conversation was started when the Brahmins who were present there for dinner interposed and pacified Mandana Mishra. Then Shankara challenged Mandana to a religious controversy. Mandana agreed. Bharati, who was the wife of Mandana Mishra and who possessed scholarly erudition, was appointed as the umpire. It was agreed beforehand that Shankara, if defeated, would become a householder and marry, and that Mandana, if defeated, would become a sannyasin and receive the robe of a sannyasin from the hands of his own wife. The controversy began in right earnest and continued for days without any interruption. Bharati did not sit and listen to their controversy. She threw 2 garlands, one each over the shoulders of each of the disputants, and said, "He whose garland begins to fade first should consider himself defeated." She left the place and began attending to her household duties. The controversy went on for 17 days. The garland of Mandana Mishra began to fade first. Mandana Mishra accepted his defeat and offered to become a sannyasin and follow Shankara. Bharati was an avatara of Sarasvati, the goddess of learning. Once the sage Durvasa chanted the Vedas before Brahma and his wife in a big assembly. Durvasa committed a small mistake. Sarasvati laughed at it. Durvasa became enraged and gave a curse that she would take birth in the world. Hence, Sarasvati had to take birth as Bharati. Bharati now interposed and said to Shankara, "I am the other half of Mandana. You have defeated only one half of Mandana. Let us have a controversy." Shankara objected to have controversy with a woman. Bharati quoted instances wherein there had been controversies with women. Shankara then agreed, and this controversy also went on uninterruptedly for 17 days. Bharati passed from one shastra to another. At last, she found out that she could not defeat Shankara. She decided to defeat him by means of the science of Kama Shastra. Shankara asked Bharati to give him an interval of 1 month for his preparation to hold controversy with her in the science of Kama Shastra. She agreed. Shankara went to Kashi. He separated his astral body from his physical body by means of his yogic powers and left his physical body in the hole of a big tree and asked his disciples to take care of that physical body. He then entered into the dead body of Raja Amaruka, which was about to be cremated. The Raja rose up, and all the people rejoiced at the astounding incident. The ministers and queens soon found out that the revived Raja was a different person with different qualities and thought. They realized that the soul of a great Mahatma had entered the body of their Raja. Therefore, messengers were sent out to search for a human body hidden somewhere in lonely forests and caves and to burn it when found. They thought that if they did so, the new Raja might remain with them for a long time. Shankara was acquiring all the experience of love with his queens. Maya is very powerful. In the midst of those queens, Shankara entirely forgot all about his promises to his disciples, about his going back to them. The disciples began to search for him. They heard about the miraculous resurrection of Raja Amaruka. They immediately proceeded to the city and had an interview with the Raja. They sang a few philosophical songs, which at once revived the memory of Shankara. The disciples immediately repaired to the place where the physical body of Shankara was kept hidden. By that time, the messengers of the Queen had found out the physical body and had just begun to set fire to it. The soul of Shankara just then entered his own body. Shankara prayed to Lord Hari to help him. There was a shower of rain immediately, and that extinguished the flames. Then Shankara returned to the residence of Mandana Mishra. He resumed the old controversy and answered all the questions raised by Bharati satisfactorily. Mandana Mishra gave all his property as a gift to Sri Shankara, and Mandana was made to distribute it to the poor and the deserving. He then became a disciple of Shankara. Shankara initiated him into the holy order of sanyasa and gave him the name of Sringeri Acharya. Sringeri Acharya was the first sannyasin who took charge of the Sringeri Mutt. Bharati also accompanied Shankara to Sringeri, and there she is worshipped even today. Shankara ascended the seat of omniscience after inviting Vedic scholars from all parts of India and answering their numerous questions. Shankara by vanquishing all the religious opponents of his day, and they belonged to no less than 72 different schools, and establishing the superiority of the Vedic Dharma, had become the Jagadguru of all. Shankara's success over the other religious sects was so complete that none of them have since been able to raise their head in the land. Most of them have disappeared altogether. After Shankara's time, although a few acharyas have appeared, none of them have been able to vanquish those who differed from them as Shankara did and establish unquestioned supremacy. Mother's funeral rite. Shankara received news that his mother was seriously ailing. He left his disciples and proceeded to Kalady alone. His mother was then bedridden. Shankara touched her feet in reverence. He praised Lord Hari. Hari's messengers came. Shankara's mother gave up her physical body and went along with those messengers to the abode of Hari. Shankara encountered serious difficulties in performing the funeral rites of his mother. Usually, sannyasins do not perform any of the rites or ceremonies which are enjoined on the householders. The Nambudiri Brahmins were all against Shankara. Shankara's relatives also did not help him. They did not come forward to assist him, even in carrying the dead body to the place of cremation, and refused to give fire for igniting the funeral pyre. At last, Shankara determined to perform the funeral rites all alone. As he could not carry the entire dead body, he cut it into pieces and removed the pieces one by one to the backyard of the house. He then made a pyre there of stems of plantain trees and set fire to it by his yogic power. Shankara wanted to teach the Nambudiris a lesson. He then made the local chief issue an edict that a corner should be set apart in each illam or house of the Nambudiri Brahmins to burn the dead of the family, and that they should cut the dead body into parts and then burn the same. This practice continues even today amongst Nambudiri Brahmins. Shankara then returned to Sringeri. From there he went out on a tour through the eastern coast with a large number of followers. He preached his Advaita philosophy wherever he went. He established the Govardhana Mutt at Puri. He went to Kanchipuram and attacked the Shaktas. He purified the temples. He won over to his side the rulers of the Chola and the Pandya kingdoms. He went to Ujjain and put down the atrocities of the Bhairavas who were shedding human blood. He then proceeded to Dwaraka and established a mutt there. He then traveled along the course of the Ganges and held religious controversies with great personages. Sankara's end. Shankara proceeded to Kamarup, the present Guwahati in Assam, and held a controversy with Abhinavagupta, the Shakta commentator, and won victory over him. Abhinava felt his defeat very keenly. He made Shankara suffer from a severe form of piles through black magic. Padmapada removed the evil effects of the black magic. Shankara became quite all right. He went to the Himalayas, built a mutt at Joshi and a temple at Badri. He then proceeded to Kedarnath, higher up in the Himalayas. He became one with the linga in 820 AD in his 32nd year. Sringeri Mutt. In the northwest of the state of Mysore, nestling in the beautiful foothills of the Western Ghats, surrounded by virgin forests, lies the village of Sringeri, and here Shankara established his first mutt. The river Tunga, a branch of the river Tungabhadra, runs through the valley, closely touching the walls of the temple, and its pure and limpid waters are as famous for drinking purposes as the waters of the Ganges are for bath, Ganga Snanam, Tunga Panam. Sringeri is a place of great sanctity, and its beauty has to be seen to be appreciated. The mutt is still going strong, as the phrase goes. The homage paid to the mutt by countless aspirants and devotees is as much due to the greatness of illustrious men like Vidyaranya, who have been at its head ever since its foundation, as to the renown of the founder himself. It may not be out of place to mention here that it took 30 years for the well-known Sanskrit professor Max Muller to translate the commentary on the Rig Veda, written by Vidyaranya, also known as Sayana. The learned professor in his preface says that not a single day passed in the 30 years without his devoting at least 10 minutes on the translation. There is also a little interesting incident that when the manuscript was found to be illegible in some places, he got an authorized transcription from the first original still preserved in the Sringeri Mutt through the influence of the then Maharaja of Mysore. The famous holy shrine of Sri Sarada is an equal source of attraction to the devotees. Many are the mutts and monasteries in India where holy men or their successors sit, and where Hindus from all parts of India gather, but none so great or so famous as Sringeri, the original seat of Adi Shankaracharya. The Sringeri Peetham is one of the oldest monasteries of the world, flourishing for over 12 centuries now. It is the first of the 4 seats of learning established by Shankaracharya, the other 3 being Puri, Dwaraka and Joshi Mutt, each one of them representing one of the 4 Vedas of the Hindus. Shankara placed his 4 eminent disciples, Sureswara Acharya, Padmapada, Hastamalaka and Trotakacharya, in charge of the Sringeri Mutt, Jagannath Mutt, Dwaraka Mutt and Joshi Mutt respectively. The most famous sannyasin in the succession of gurus of the Sringeri Mutt was, of course, Vidyaranya, the great commentator on the Vedas and the father of the dynasty of Vijayanagar. He was the Diwan of Vijayanagaram. He became a sannyasin about 1331 AD. The 11 sannyasins before Vidyaranya were Shankaracharya, Viswarupa, Nityabodhagana, Jananagana, Jananottama, Jananagiri, Simhagirisvara, Isvara Tirtha, Narasimha Tirtha, Vidya Sankara Tirtha, and Bharati Krishna Tirtha. The historic and sacred pontifical throne of the Sringeri Mutt is known as Vyakhyana Simhasana, or Seat of Learning. Tradition has it that this seat was given to the great Shankara by Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, in appreciation of the philosopher's vast scholarly erudition. 35 acharyas had sat on the pontifical throne before His Present Holiness in regular and uninterrupted succession. Dasanami Sannyasins. Shankara organized 10 definite orders of sannyasins under the name Dasanamis, who add, at the end of their names, any one of the following 10 suffixes: Sarasvati, Bharati, Puri, Sringeri Mutt, Tirtha, Asrama, Dwaraka Mutt, Giri, Parvata and Saga, Joshi Mutt, Vana and Aranya, Govardhana Mutt. The Paramahamsa represents the highest of these grades. It is possible to become a Paramahamsa by a long course of Vedantic study, meditation, and self-realization. The Ativanashramis are beyond caste and order of life. They dine with all classes of people. Sankara's sannyasins are to be found all over India. Some anecdotes. Shankara was going along the street one day with his pupils to take bath in the Ganges when he met a Chandala who was also passing along the street with his dogs by his side. The disciples of Shankara shouted and asked the Chandala to clear off the road. The Chandala asked Shankara, "O venerable Guru, you are a preacher of Advaita Vedanta, and yet you make a great difference between man and man. How can this be consistent with your teaching of Advaitism? Is Advaita only a theory?" Shankara was very much struck by the intelligent query of the Chandala. He thought within himself, "Lord Siva has assumed this form just to teach me a lesson." He composed then and there 5 slokas called the Manisha Panchaka. Every sloka ends thus: "He who learnt to look on the phenomena in the light of Advaita is my true Guru, be he a Chandala or be he a Brahmin." In Kashi, a student was cramming the sutras in Sanskrit grammar. He was repeating again and again, Dukrin Karane, Dukrin Karane. Shankara heard it and was struck by the perseverance of the boy. He immediately sang a small poem, the famous Bhaja Govindam song, in order to teach the uselessness of such studies in the matter of the liberation of the soul. The meaning of the song is, "Worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, O fool. When you are about to die, the repetition of these Sanskrit sutras will not save you." Once some mischief-mongers offered meat and liquor to Shankara. Shankara touched those items with his right hand. The meat turned into apples and the liquor into milk. A Kapalika came to Shankara and begged for his head as a gift. Shankara consented and asked the Kapalika to take his head when he was alone and absorbed in meditation. The Kapalika was just aiming with a big sword to sever the head of Shankara. Padmapada, the devoted disciple of Shankara, came, caught hold of the arm of the Kapalika, and killed him with his knife. Padmapada was a worshipper of Lord Narasimha. Lord Narasimha entered the body of Padmapada and killed the Kapalika. Shankara's philosophy. Shankara wrote bhashyas, or commentaries, on the Brahma Sutras, the Upanishads, and the Gita. The bhashya on the Brahma Sutras is called Saririk Bhashya. Shankara wrote commentaries on Sanat Sujatiya and Sahasranama Adhyaya. It is usually said, for learning logic and metaphysics, go to Shankara's commentaries. For gaining practical knowledge, which unfolds and strengthens devotion, go to his works such as Viveka Chudamani, Atma Bodha, Aparoksha Anubhuti, Ananda Lahari, Atma Anatma Viveka, Drik Drishya Viveka, and Upadesa Sahasri. Sankara wrote innumerable original works in verses which are matchless in sweetness, melody, and thought. Sankara's supreme Brahman is nirguna, without the gunas, nirakara, formless, nirvishesha, without attributes, and akata, non-agent. He is above all needs and desires. Sankara says this: Atman is self-evident. This Atman, or self, is not established by proofs of the existence of the self. It is not possible to deny this Atman, for it is the very essence of he who denies it. The Atman is the basis of all kinds of knowledge. The self is within, the self is without, the self is before, and the self is behind. The self is on the right hand, the self is on the left, the self is above, and the self is below. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Anandam are not separate attributes. They form the very essence of Brahman. Brahman cannot be described, because description implies distinction. Brahman cannot be distinguished from any other than he. The objective world, the world of names and forms, has no independent existence. The Atman alone has real existence. The world is only Vyavaharika, or phenomenal. Sankara was the exponent of the Kevala Advaita philosophy. His teachings can be summed up in the following words: Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naapara. Brahman alone is real. This world is unreal. The Jiva is identical with Brahman. Sankara preached Vivata Vada. Just as the snake is superimposed on the rope, this world and this body are superimposed on Brahman, or the Supreme Self. If you get a knowledge of the rope, the illusion of the snake will vanish. Even so, if you get a knowledge of Brahman, the illusion of the body and the world will vanish. Sankara is the foremost among the masterminds and the giant souls which Mother India has produced. He was the expounder of the Advaita philosophy. Sankara was a giant metaphysician, a practical philosopher, an infallible logician, a dynamic personality, and a stupendous moral and spiritual force. His grasping and elucidating powers knew no bounds. He was a fully developed yogi, gnani, and bhakta. He was a karma yogin of no mean order. He was a powerful magnet. There is not one branch of knowledge which Sankara has left unexplored and which has not received the touch, polish, and finish of his superhuman intellect. For Sankara and his works we have a very high reverence. The loftiness, calmness, and firmness of his mind, the impartiality with which he deals with various questions, his clearness of expression, all these make us revere the philosopher more and more. His teachings will continue to live as long as the sun shines. Sankara's scholarly erudition and his masterly way of exposition of intricate philosophical problems have won the admiration of all the philosophical schools of the world at the present moment. Sankara was an intellectual genius, a profound philosopher, an able propagandist, a matchless preacher, a gifted poet, and a great religious reformer. Perhaps never in the history of any literature a stupendous writer like him has been found. Even the Western scholars of the present day pay their homage and respects to him. Of all the ancient systems, that of Shankaracharya will be found to be the most congenial and the most easy of acceptance to the modern mind.